Laura Jones, and today I plan to inform my audience on how to conduct an effective hiring or selection interview. Throughout our lives, we will all take place in many different interviews, whether as the interviewer or the interviewee. Here, I plan to inform you on how to conduct an effective interview. Let's go over some of the objectives. Definition of an interview. 6 different types of an interview. Hiring and selection interviews in more detail. Structure for an effective interview. How to formulate closed, open, primary, and secondary questions, as well as questions that are illegal. And guidelines for an effective interview. First things first, what is an interview? An interview is a purposeful, planned, decision-making, person-to-person communication. Different types of interview are information gathering, which is used to gather information for someone who doesn't have the knowledge that you have. Or appraisal interview, which is usually conducted by a manager, and the interviewer assesses the interviewee. Persuasive interviews are used to persuade the interviewee, usually done by a salesperson or things of that nature. Exit interviews, when you leave an organization. Counseling interviews provide guidance and support for the interviewee. And lastly, hiring or selection interviews are done when trying to fill an employment position. Now that I've summarized the different types of interviews, let's explore the hiring selection interview in more detail. First things first, hiring and selection interview is a primary tool for selecting employees. The interviewee and the interviewer must carefully plan and prepare. 1. Compose a cover letter. As the interviewee, as the interviewer, read the cover letter. Cover letters usually have 6 different criteria and are usually 1 page long. It expresses your interest with the organization. It tells the organization how the applicant learned of the position. It reviews the applicant's primary skills and accomplishments. It explains why the applicant's skills and accomplishments qualify them for the job. It highlights any items of special interest about the applicant that is relevant to the ability to perform the job. And it contains a request for an interview. Second, a resume, which summarizes your abilities and accomplishments. It's usually detailed and they vary in many different ways, but there are a few basic information things that go on a resume. 1, your contact information, name, phone number, email. 2, your objective with a phrase that focuses on your ability, your area of expertise. 3, the applicant's employment history, job experiences, both paid and unpaid. The applicant's education, which includes schools attended, degrees received, things of that nature. Relevant professional certifications and affiliations. Community service completed that's relevant to the job. Special interests and the applicant may possess. And lastly, references that should be included, but only include references if it is asked of the organization. There are several different types of hiring interview. We'll just discuss some of the most common. Unstructured interviews, they ask questions that vary from candidate to candidate. Interviewers rely on their own theories about what makes a good or bad hire, such as the person's appearance or their nonverbal cues. There's no standard for evaluating candidates' answers, and it's not always job-related, as well as not reliable due to lack of consistency. A structured interview, which candidates are asked a series of standardized job-related questions with predetermined scores and for different answers. They usually ask the candidates a series of questions. They have the same questions that are asked in the same way for all applicants. They're non-biased and can be behavioral or situational, and they are very reliable and valid. Behavior interviews are ones that are about asking an applicant about information based on their past, and the interviewer will try to predict their future. And situation interviews give the applicant a situation where it's hypothetical and how that applicant might react. Interview structure. Interview structure should have a clear beginning, where you use your icebreaker, the middle, which is usually the longest part where you you ask questions, and an end, the close of the interview, and you should also leave the door open for future contact. Now, during an interview, both the interviewer and the interviewee will ask questions. Questions set the tone for an interview. They also determine what the interview will yield. And lastly, questions open the window for the personality of the person. There are different types of questions. Closed questions are highly structured and can be answered with a yes or a no. Open questions are the interviewee's freedom with regard to choice and scope of answer. Primary questions can be closed and open, but they are questions used to introduce a topic or explore a new area. And secondary questions, also known as probing questions, usually follow-up questions. For example, what do you mean? What would you explain that in future? Now, that takes care of hiring and selection interviews. Now let's go over what's probably on everyone's mind. What questions are illegal? According to the EEOC, questions concerning age, race, marital status, and other personal characteristics are protected under anti-discrimination statutes and are illegal. Rule of thumb: if the question is relevant to the interviewee's ability to perform the job, it's a good question. If it's not, it's unlawful. I have provided you guys with a list of questions that are illegal and what questions to use instead of those questions. Lastly, let's discuss benefits for an interview. Interviews require cooperation, skill, and commitment of both participants. Interviewers and interviewees benefit by being prepared, know and understand the purpose of the interview, anticipate questions you will ask and be asked. B, practice sending and receiving messages. Interviews demand skill at sending and receiving messages. Both the interviewer and the interviewee should be able to encode messages as well as skilled as reading reactions, checking the perceptions of others. C, demonstrate effective listening skills. Listen. Don't anticipate what the other person is going to say because you might miss something. Have conviction. Be excited about your KSAs, also known as knowledge, skills, and abilities. If you're not excited, why would you think anybody else would be? So, answer your questions. Talk about yourself with enthusiasm. Be flexible. Be able to adjust to different styles and pace. Do not anticipate questions and answers, then not be able to answer them with precise questions. Be observant. Give your total attention. Pay attention to nonverbal skills. Consider the offer. Be sure that this choice is one that you and the organization can live with. And lastly, chart your progress. Every time you do an interview, you should do a completed chart or a self-evaluation of yourself afterwards. I have also attached a sheet for you guys to chart your progress. Now let's summarize. Interview assesses a variety of skills, abilities, and styles, including people's communication skills, interpersonal skills, and leadership styles. There are 6 different types of interviews: information gathering, appraisals, persuasive, exit, counseling, and hiring or selection interviews. The hiring and selection interview is the most commonly used interviews. Structured interviews should have a beginning to break the ice, a middle where questions are asked, and an ending with a bang so the doors are left open for both sides. Interviews can't happen without questions. Make sure you formulate the 4 different types of questions: closed, open, secondary, and primary questions. And don't get caught off guard. And make sure you don't get caught asking illegal questions. It could cost your job. You should always benefit from an interview, whether the position is filled or not. Evaluate your progress. Thank you.